Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention in my last sermon was I want you to turn to Genesis chapter 1. Look in verse 9. It says, God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. So this is earth being created. And God called the dry land earth. You see that? It says dry land earth. And the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons. So what was created first? It was the earth. The earth was created first, and then he created the lights, the stars, the sun. And it says, let them be for signs and for seasons and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And God made two great lights. So he didn't even create the sun and the moon yet. So now he's creating the sun and the moon, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night. And God saw that it was good. So what happened first was on the second day, God created the firmament. And then the third day, God created earth under the firmament, in the firmament. And then the fourth day, God creates the sun and the moon. So what was the earth rotating around before God created it? What was the earth rotating around before God created the sun? It wasn't rotating around anything because he created the earth first. Created the earth, the firmament, and then he put the lights in it. And I just wanted to show you that before we get into the circle of the earth. So you just have a general idea that God created the earth first, and then the sun and the moon. It just wouldn't make sense. Why wouldn't he create the sun first, and then the earth, and have the earth spin around the sun? It makes more sense that he created the earth first, and then the sun spinning around the earth. So let's get into the circle of the earth. All right, so I hope you still have your packet. If not, grab your packet from below you. And if you're watching this online, you haven't seen part number 1, it's important to watch part number 1 and get the foundations of the message. So we're going to start in Isaiah chapter 40. And if you have your packet with you, we're going to look at Isaiah 40 next to verse 22. And I want you to put your packet next to your Bible. And on the first page of your packet, it goes over something in verse 22. In Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 22, it goes over something very specific. And it says in verse 22, it is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, talking about God, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. So look at your packet. This is the flat earth model of the universe. Well, I don't like to call it a universe because it's an enclosed system. So the flat earth model of the world. This is the circle. If God is sitting upon the circle of the earth, he's sitting up here. Remember, we talked about God being above the firmament. He's sitting upon the circle of the earth and looking down, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, looking down at the circle, us as grasshoppers. We're as grasshoppers to him. On the spinning ball earth, he's looking down and things are just spinning in front of his face. Things are just going everywhere. And things are more relative and literal in the Bible. He is literally looking down upon us. And it says, he that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. So when you think of a tent, what do you think of? Something that's on a flat surface that is casing over it. It is over the earth. This is a tent. The heavens are as a tent. And it says to dwell in. Because he's talking about stretching out the heavens and spreading them as to dwell in. We are dwelling in that tent. That tent is this firmament. And everything is within this enclosed system. It is all within here. And we are sitting within. And a tent is something you would use on a flat surface. They use that terminology. God uses this terminology for a good reason. You wouldn't put a tent on a ball. You would wrap a blanket around a ball. Or you would do something else around a ball. But a tent is something that you set pillars and you establish it, and then everything else is within it. So turn to Isaiah chapter 13. So I just wanted to go over why the earth is a circle, not a sphere, because some people will use that verse, that he sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and they'll say, see, that's the word, that's sphere. That's a sphere. Or in Hebrew, circle means sphere. You know, they just want to go back. They want to go back to the Hebrew and just say, no, it's just a circle, and this is a circle. This is the circle of the earth. It's a flat disc, and he's looking down upon it. But it's not a sphere, it's a circle. And then if you're in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 13, I want to show you that the earth is in a fixed position. It is not rotating around the sun. It is not spinning through the galaxy. It is not being just propelled into nothingness. It's in a fixed position. Look in verse 13 of Isaiah 13. It says, therefore, I will shake the heavens. In order to shake something, it's usually stationary, right? I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts and in the day of his fierce anger. So her place is showing that the earth has a place, a position, a space, that it is set. In the rotating earth, where it's just going everywhere and, you know, it's going through space and it's traveling around the sun, which is traveling around the galaxy, there's no fixed place for earth. But this is in a fixed place. Turn to 1 Chronicles chapter 16. 1 Chronicles chapter 16. I'm just going to go through a bunch of verses that show that the earth is in a fixed position and it is stationary and not rotating or spinning. 1 Chronicles chapter 16 and verse 30, it says, fear before him all the earth, the world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. So the world is stable, it's established, and it's not going to be moved. Turn to Psalm chapter 33. Psalm chapter 33, I want you to look in verse 8. Psalm 33 and verse 8, it says, let all the earth fear the Lord. Let the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. So he's talking about the inhabitants of the world, and he's saying he spake, and it was done. Everything was created. And he commanded, and it stood fast. When something is staying, it stood, it's in one place. And when it's fast, it's fastened. It's staying in that one place. Turn to Psalm 93, which we just read. Psalm 93, which we just read, in verse 1. It says, the Lord reigneth. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he had girded himself. The world also is established, that it cannot be moved. So it's describing the strength of the Lord. It's describing that he is clothed with majesty and clothed with strength, wherewith he had girded himself. And he's talking about something the Lord created, the world, also established, and it cannot be moved. It's in one fixed place. It's not rotating or spinning. Turn to Psalm 104, verse 5. Psalm 104 in verse 5. Verse 5 reads, who laid the foundation of the earth, that it should not be removed forever? So the foundation of the earth is, when you think of foundation, you got to think of what it is built upon. The earth itself. So the foundation of the earth, what the earth is mounted upon. Obviously, we're going to go over the verse where it's mounted upon nothing, where the earth hangeth upon nothing. But the foundation of the earth is not going to be removed. I don't always use this verse because, some people will say that just the earth itself is not going to be removed. But when you're talking about the foundation of the earth, the place and where it is standing, that it should not be removed forever, because it's immovable and it cannot be removed forever. Turn to Isaiah chapter 45. Isaiah chapter 45 in verse 18. It says in verse 18 in Isaiah 45, it says, thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it. He created it not in vain, for he formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. So in this verse, what does it say? It says that he created the earth not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. And he's saying he's the Lord. He made it. God himself formed the earth and he made it. He formed it not in vain. So if he formed the earth not in vain and it was made to be inhabited, the earth has a purpose. It was made to be inhabited by us. The sun has a purpose. It is made to give light upon the earth. The moon has a purpose. It is made to give light upon the earth when the sun is not, where it's not with the sun, because mind you, they're spinning in the same direction around the earth. So everything God created has a purpose. He formed the earth for a reason, for it to be inhabited. Why would he create a vast expanse of billions of galaxies, billions of other planets, billions of other stars, if they have no purpose? Because they don't have a purpose. They have no purpose if you believe that there's billions of other galaxies, billions of other stars, billions of other planets. Those things were created by science to deceive you, to make it seem like there could be other life out there. To make it seem like God did not make us personal, but he formed the earth for a reason, so it would be inhabited by us as people, so we could inhabit it. Nothing is vainly created. He said he created it not in vain. Vain, it just means vanity. So if something's created in vain, it doesn't have a purpose. It's useless. In the same way that other planets, other galaxies, other stars millions of light years away, they're useless. They're vanity. They're created in vain for no reason. The earth, the flat earth system, everything in our system has a purpose. The sea has purpose, the land has purpose, the firmament itself has purpose, the sun and the moon and the stars within it have purpose. Other galaxies they would be vanity. They would be created in vain. There's no purpose to them. Turn to Job chapter 9. So I'm going to go over a couple verses that talk about the earth being on pillars. But this is more of, a theory that God puts forth about the earth being on pillars. I don't have science to back this up, just in the same way I don't have science to back up that there's a firmament in heaven. We're trusting the Bible here. So in Job chapter 9 and verse 6, it says, which shaketh the earth out of her place. So it's talking about God shaking the earth out of her place, her stationary place that God has established for it. And the pillars thereof tremble. So the Bible does talk about the earth on pillars. And the pillars necessarily don't have to have a foundation. Because some people will say, well, if the earth has pillars, then what about the Lord? What about the earth being hung on nothing? The earth hangeth upon nothing. We'll go over that. But just because the earth has pillars, or if God describes it, the foundation, doesn't mean those pillars are on anything. So the earth can still be hung upon nothing. And the pillars thereof can be also theoretical in the sense that this is the Lord holding the earth up. So turn to 1 Samuel chapter 2. 1 Samuel chapter 2. I'm going to talk about these pillars a little more. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, he raiseth up the poor. 1 Samuel 2 and verse 8. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifted up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. So the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the earth upon them. So, this could put forth the theory that there are pillars holding the earth. Pillars holding this flat earth up. And the Lord has established them. But what are those pillars on? They're on the strength of God. God is holding up everything. God is the one that is holding up the earth. God is the reason that this earth is unmovable and stable. But the Lord is talking about the actual flat earth being hung upon pillars, which is also not possible on a globe earth. Because, you're constantly spinning. There's no stationary thing about it. And there would be no pillars. And in Psalm 75, if you turn to Psalm 75, it's the Lord that is actually holding the earth. It is the Lord that's keeping the earth stationary. It's the Lord that has established the earth. And he created, look in Psalm 75 in verse 3. It says, in verse 3 of Psalm 75, it says, the earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. I bear up the pillars of it. So it's talking about the Lord bearing the pillars of the earth. So the Lord holds the earth. He bears up the pillars. It is the Lord that is keeping the earth stationary. When you think of pillars, you think of something that's established. You think of something that is, you would use pillars to hold up a building. And a building is not something that's constantly in motion. You wouldn't use pillars to hold up a car. You wouldn't use pillars to hold up an airplane. You use pillars to hold up something that's established, something that's stationary. Turn to Job chapter 26, verse 7. Job chapter 26, verse 7. And in Job chapter 26, verse 7, he's talking about the Lord, and he says, he stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. So if you think of the north as the center of the flat earth, and he's stretching out the north over the empty place, because it's a circle, and he's hanging the earth upon nothing. So those pillars, he's establishing them. He's holding the earth. He's keeping it fastened. And that is literally hung upon nothing. You can't say the pillars are hung upon something because it's the Lord that has established it. And he's stretching out the north over an empty place. Stretching out the north over an empty place. And hanging the earth upon nothing. But in the heliocentric model of the earth is hung upon the gravity of the sun. People say, oh, because it's spinning in space, it's hung upon nothing. But it actually, if it's tied to the gravity of the sun, it is hung upon the sun's gravity. And it is hung upon the weight or the mass of the sun. And it is not hung upon nothing because it according to science, it rotates the same distance every single year around the same exact thing, and it is hung upon the gravity of the sun. So I just wanted to disprove that, some people will say, oh, the earth is a ball because it's not hung upon anything. But, if you believe in gravity and you believe that gravity is holding the earth, it is holding the earth in its rotation around the sun. But I believe that the Lord is holding up the earth, and he has established it. It is his to hold up, and he's hanging it upon nothing. He's hanging it upon nothing because it's established on his pillars. You usually hang something from the top, and he's hanging it upon nothing. He's holding it with his pillars. And it says in Job 38, verse 6, it says in verse 6, whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, and who laid the cornerstone thereof? He's talking about the world, and he's trying, he's kind of rebuking Job, telling him all the things that he created, all the things that he did, and he's saying, if you can answer this, whereupon are the foundations thereof, the earth, fastened? Where's the earth fixed? Where it is? Tell me where it is. Who laid the cornerstone, which is something you would do for something that's established, a cornerstone, a building. If Jesus is the cornerstone of our faith, that has to be something fixed. That has to be something immovable. That has to be something you build upon. If you're establishing a cornerstone of the earth, you have to build upon that. You have to have that established. And that is stationary, stuck, fixed. I'm going to prove to you that the earth is a flat surface. Go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. So throughout the Bible, almost 40 times, the Bible will use the word face. They'll use the word face to describe the face of the earth, also the face of the sea. And anytime the word face is used in the Bible, it's actually talking about a flat surface. So if you're in Genesis chapter 1, look at verse 29, it says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth. And every tree which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So, upon the face of the earth. Think of your own face. So even when it describes your own face, your face itself is flat in the same way that the earth is flat. It just has peaks and valleys and dips, but it is flat. You wouldn't call your head flat. You would call your head a sphere. You would call your head something that is circular, round, something that is a sphere. But you could consider your face as the earth in the sense that if you're, if you have a circular type face, it would be a circle, but it would also be a face in the sense that it's flat with just peaks and valleys, like mountains, dips in the sea, everything, it's still flat. And the face of the face of the land, the face of the sea, whenever God is using to describe that, it's talking about a flat surface. And I want you to turn to number 7 in your packet. If you look in your packet, we're going to look at picture number 7. So these are 4 different pictures. And it's spanning over the course of almost 10 or 15 miles, you can see here. So this is at sea level, and there's a reason it's called sea level, because it's level. The sea is not curving, it's level completely throughout the world. So this is at sea level. You see that the horizon is flat. And then you go up a little more. This is at ground level. The horizon, you see the horizon is flat. And then you go over here. This is a different part on the ground also, a different part of the world. You see how it's flat? And then the top picture is above the clouds. But do you see how the horizon is also flat? Why is it flat? As no matter where you go, no matter how high you go up on the earth, and you can find these videos online. I'm going to make a documentary about this sermon, these 2 sermons, and I'm going to show you video. But why is it flat as you go higher and higher and higher? It's because the earth is a flat surface. So the horizon will rise with you, and it will remain flat no matter what field of view you are seeing. Because remind you, we talked about how all the converging lines of your vision going down a hallway. So the ground continues to look flat when it is flat. And all the reason that the horizon will raise with you is because the way that you're looking, you're continually just looking farther and farther distances away, but it's always flat because it's a flat surface. If the earth was curved, the higher you got, the more curvature you would see. Because you're getting more and more farther away from a flat surface. So when you're just looking in front of you, everything looks flat. And you shouldn't see that much curvature if you were on a curved earth, yes. But as you get higher, or as you look farther, and as you look broader, like if you ever look at the sea, you should see curvature. You should begin to see that. And especially when you get into higher buildings, like you don't have to go flying to see this. Just go up to a 100-story building. Go up to an 80-story building, a 40-story building, and look out at the horizon. It's going to remain flat to you because the rest of the earth is flat. And it's rising with your vision. Amen. It would curve. The higher you got, it would be even more curved. It would curve even exponentially the higher you got because you could see farther distances. And the farther distance you can see, the more the earth curves. 8 inches per mile square, remind you. So the farther you can see, the more it should curve. But as you can see by these pictures, and as you should do next time you're in a tall building, just look outside. The horizon will always remain flat no matter what level you're at because the earth is flat. Turn to Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22. So remember how I described how your face was flat and how any time the word face, whether it be talking about the sea or the land, is describing a flat surface? Look at Numbers chapter 22 and verse 31. It says, "Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angels of the Lord standing in the way, and the sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face." If your face wasn't flat, he wouldn't say flat on your face, because the Bible is very literal. So he did fall flat on his face, whether he hit his nose first or not. It's still a flat surface. Whenever the Bible is talking about the face of the water, the face of the land, the face of everything, it's talking about face because it is flat. As you continue on, turn to Genesis chapter 7. Genesis 7, verse 23. Genesis chapter 7, verse 23. So if you look in Genesis 7 and verse 23, it says, "Every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground." So it's talking about everything in the earth, right? Every living substance was on the face of the ground. So it's talking about a flat surface and every living substance being on the face of it. Both man and cattle and creeping thing and the fowl of heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. Turn to Genesis chapter 1. Actually, I'm sorry, stay in Genesis 7. Genesis 7, look in verse 18. It says, "The waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. So the waters are increasing, remember, when there was a flood, and we're going to get into the ends of the earth and what I believe is holding the earth in. When the waters are increasing and everything is getting drowned and everybody is dying, it's talking about the face of the waters, a level-faced plain. That's how that works. When the heavens are open and a flood is coming down and the earth is being flooded up, that's how that works. It doesn't work on a globe. If you're spinning and you have these massive floods, the water is going to be pulled to and which way. The moon's going to be pulling the shore back and forth. You're going to have all these gravity factors coming in, and it just doesn't work when a ball is spinning, that all the water can stay on a ball, yet other things don't have to be forced down by that water. That gravity should be so intense to hold the water in that it should be able to hold you to the ground. It should be able to hold birds to the ground. Helium should not be able to rise in a helium balloon. Right. And the only reason that helium can rise in a helium balloon is because helium is less dense than air. So if you fill up a balloon which has weight and is more dense than air, it'll fall, and it has nothing in it, it'll fall to the ground. But you put enough helium in it, it spans out that balloon, makes the density of that balloon less and less as you fill it, and then at a certain point, it will start floating. But if you let out enough helium from that balloon, and the weight of the balloon matches with the helium in there, and that density matches, you'll have a balloon at equilibrium. You ever seen a balloon that is just sitting right there? That's just sitting in space? The reason for that is because of density, not gravity. So the density of inside the balloon, the density of helium is a lot less than air. It counteracted with the weight of that balloon that it matched the air perfectly. That's why it's equilibrium. That's why that balloon is not going up or down, because the density of the balloon plus the helium matched the density of the air. So it's not going up or down, it's just staying perfectly at equilibrium. That doesn't work on gravity. It should be pulling it down no matter what. It doesn't matter how much it weighs. And then turn to Zechariah chapter 9. Let's go over the ends of the earth. The ends of the earth. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2 says, "The earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." So it's, again, talking about a level plain. You're in Zechariah chapter 9, look in verse 10. So the Lord has established ends to the earth. And I'm going to describe to you what these ends are, and I believe them to be ice walls that surround the earth, also known as Antarctica. So remember, when we're talking about this flat earth model, on the globe, Antarctica on the globe is at the bottom, right? So when you think of a globe, you think of Antarctica at the bottom. But when you think of the flat earth model, remember, the north is the top. And if you squish the globe, the north would be at the center, right? So what does Antarctica become? It becomes the ends, all the way around, 360 degrees. So their globe model is actually false. They make it seem like a continent, but what it really is it's the ends of the earth. And the reason that those ice walls, those ice shelves are so high is because they're holding in the earth. They're holding in the waters. They're holding in everything. And God has established it. Look at Zechariah chapter 9 and verse 10. It says, "And I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off. And he shall speak peace unto the heathen, and his dominion shall be from sea even to sea, and from the river even to the ends of the earth." So God has established ends to our earth. It's not just a continuing full-on globe where there's no end. You can literally, if it's a globe, you can go from one point around in a circle, in a circle, in a circle. You can do that here on a flat earth model if you're going around the North Pole. So you can do that. But if you just fly straight, if you're not, turning, you'll hit the end of the earth. Because there are ends. And we're going to go over a lot of verses that talk about this. But this is just one. It says, from the river even to the end of the earth. Turn to Job chapter 26. Maria, could you grab me water? Job chapter 26, verse 10. It says, "He hath compassed the waters with bounds." Job 26, verse 10, it says, "He hath compassed the waters with bounds until the day and the night come to an end." You see that? bounds. He has compassed, remember when we talked about in the first sermon that a compass is describing a circle? A compass is describing a curved surface. He has compassed the waters with bounds until the day and night come to an end. So those bounds are there. Those bounds are established. Now I want you to open up your packet, and I'm going to show you why we don't know that much about these bounds. Look at number 8 in your packet. It's going to be a page from Wikipedia. Number 8 in your packet looks like this. It's a page from Wikipedia, and it says Antarctic Treaty System. See that? Antarctic Treaty System. So you're in page number 8. Look what it says. I'm going to read just the first sentence. It says, the Antarctic Treaty and related agreements, collectively known as the Antarctic Treaty System, regulate the international relations with respect to Antarctica, Earth's only continent without a native human population. If we're on the Earth and there's just one continent on the bottom, you think we're not going to go to it? You think we're not going to just jump on it and just inhabit it? We're on the Earth. People want to find the bounds of the Earth. They desire to inhabit certain places. But you can't inhabit something that's just an ice wall. I'm not saying that the ice wall doesn't continue out, because it does. But the reason that this treaty was established, look in the next sentence. It says, for the purpose of the treaty system, Antarctica is defined as the land, as all of the land and ice shelves south of 60-degree latitude. The treaty entered into force in 1961 and has 53 parties. 53 countries have agreed to never inhabit Antarctica. Never inhabit Antarctica. And what's their purpose? Let's look. It says the treaty sets aside Antarctica as a scientific preserve. What is in Antarctica that needs to be a preserve? Like, what are you preserving? The ice? We gotta keep this ice here just in case, we ever have global warming. We're gonna save this one place. We're gonna go get our ice from this place. And then it says, a scientific preserve establishes freedom of scientific investigation and bans military activity, except for the U.S., who has all of their military there and protects it with fighter jets. If you go to Antarctica, it's like you flew over the Pentagon. I'm serious. If there's a place, if you just fly to Antarctica, you just don't let anybody know, you're just I'm going to fly to Antarctica, they'll shoot you down. Or they'll race you down if you don't stop. Because you're going to figure out that there's an end of the Earth. You'll figure that out. They don't want us to know that. And then it says, it says bans military activity. Then it says the treaty was the first arms control agreement established during the Cold War. What else happened during the Cold War was when they were blowing up the fishbowl. Remember Operation Fishbowl? It was all happening at the same time. They're coming together during this time. Since September 2004, the Antarctic Treaty Secretariat headquarters have been located in Argentina. And then it says the next paragraph, the treaty was opened for signature in 1959, officially entered into force in 1961. The original signatories were the 12 countries active in Antarctica, the International Geocentrical Year, in 1957. And it says the 12 countries that had significant interest in Antarctica were Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, the Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and the United States. Those countries knew that Antarctica was an ice wall. They established this treaty to not let the information get out. And now, if you read the last sentence, these countries had established over 50 Antarctic stations for the IGY. The treaty was diplomatic expression of the operational and scientific cooperation of many nations that have been achieved on the ice. So the reason for this Antarctic treaty system is so that the information never gets out that there's an end to the Earth. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to realize that Antarctica is not a continent to be inhabited. They want you to think that Antarctica is just some scientific region where we're just doing a lot of studies. We're just finding out how cold it can get here. Let's just figure that out first. No, what they don't want you to see the end. They don't want you to see that the world has ends. And I want you to turn to one more thing. Look at page number 9. Page number 9. These are pictures. And you can actually do research on other people who have traveled by sea. Like, I'm talking before this military ban, where they just say, I traveled around the earth and I could not get past the ice wall. There's papers of people that were actually, trying to find other land, trying to go out and explore in the 1800s and the 1600s, and they literally said that they just came to an ice wall where they literally just had to travel around the whole earth in an ice wall. And you can read their firsthand accounts of all this happening. And there's people who have tried to fly to Antarctica and they were taken down by the military. All this information is available to you, but look at number 9. These are the ice walls that are encasing the earth. Those don't look too small, do they? Why don't you fall off the edge? It's because of these giant ice walls that God has established, which he says in Job chapter 26, verse 10, he hath compassed the water with bounds until the day and night come to an end. So until day and night are over, these bounds are staying. These bounds are established. I want you to turn to Acts chapter 17. Acts chapter 17. Acts chapter 17, we're going to look at verse 26. And this is a verse we use to kind of get rid of racism, because it says, and hath made of one blood all nations of men. Right? So we're all of one blood. But we don't look at the end of this verse. And it says in Acts 17, verse 26, all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation. So God knows our bounds. He has established it. We're all of one blood. We're all together. We're all from the same gene pool, and he knows our bounds. He has set our bounds about. Turn to Job chapter 38. Job chapter 38. If this theory, some people call it, the reason the title of my sermon was the flat earth and not the flat earth theory was because I don't believe it to be a theory. A theory is something you can't prove. And if this theory wasn't true, would I be able to find this much scripture on it? 2 sermons worth of scripture, 12 pages. Turn to Job chapter 38, verse 8. Who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as is it issued out of a womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, so the cloud is the covering of the seas, and the thick darkness a swaddling band for it, so the thick darkness above the clouds, a swaddling band for it, and break up it for a decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further. He's talking about the sea. Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further. And here shall thy proud waves be stayed. The bars and doors, the ends of the earth. What's holding in the sea is the bars and doors. And he said, thy proud waves will be stayed. So no water is breaking through these bars. No water is breaking through Antarctica or the ice wall that God has created to bound the earth, to bind it together. Turn to Psalm 103. Psalm 103. I'm going to read a verse from Job chapter 28 and verse 24. It says, he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven. Job 28:24 says, he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven. So if you got the firmament on top, he can obviously see the ends of the earth, and he sees under, remember the firmament is heaven, under the whole heaven. It's all right there in his vision. He's seeing all of it. And then you're in Psalm 103, look in verse 11. It says, for as the heaven is high above the earth, so great is his mercy toward them that fear him. So remember, as the heaven, in Genesis 1 verse 8, it said, the firmament is heaven. He called the firmament heaven. So as the heaven is high above the earth, so the firmament at the center is the highest point. Because remember, it's like a dome, a glass dome. As high it is above the earth, so great is his mercy towards them that fear him. And as far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgression from us. So, mind you, there's 2 ways to look at this. God could establish a north, south, east, and west in the sense that he could make not north the center, but make north like over here, and west over here, and east over here, and south over here. So that's a very long distance. Or if you look at it, the flat earth model with the disk, because the disk has magnetism, which is how we describe the sun rotating at different paths around the center. If this is the north, in the same way that you could think of it, I guess, with the globe, but if this is the north, and the east and the west are relative to the north, the east and the west are pretty much infinite, right? Because you're going from, if you're always traveling to the right in a circle, you're always traveling east, if you're looking at it that way. And if you're traveling this way, you're always traveling west in a circle around the north. Because remember, the north is the center, and we're talking about circles east to west. But also, if God's thinking that if God's way is that the north is up here, and the east and west and south are here, at least that's a very far distance. Like, we know that for sure. So, but in the flat earth model, the north is the center because it helps with understanding magnetism, because the north pole is the center. That's why when your compass points north, it's pointing towards the center of the disk. So when a disk has magnetism, you think of north and south of the magnetism. The north is the center point of the disk, and then as you get farther out to the very outer spaces, the very outer ends, it's south. And that's how seasons work on a flat Earth, because you have the sun and the moon, right? And they're always traveling at different distances from the north, but they're compassing in a full 24-hour period. So, if you live in this area, when it's summer for you, the sun is going to be very close. But when it's winter, it's getting farther and farther away. And if you live in this area, around the equator, that's why the equator is always so hot, is because the sun will be around the equator the most. If it's starting here and going out farther, and then eventually coming back in, it hits the equator twice, right? As it goes out and as it comes in. That's why the equator is usually the hottest point. That works on the flat earth model, because you have the sun coming in here for a season, coming out there for a season, then coming back in till it's summer. And that's how the equator works. And then where did I tell you to turn? You're in, turn to Isaiah chapter 44. Isaiah chapter 44, look in verse 24. Isaiah 44, look in verse 24. And in verse 24, the Bible reads, "Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer, he that formed thee from the womb, I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, which spreadeth them abroad the earth by myself." Abroad the earth. He's stretching the heavens above the earth. And when you stretch something abroad, you're usually stretching it across a flat surface. You're spreading something abroad, like you would stretch forth a blanket over a bed. The same concept is here. He's stretching forth the heavens over the earth. He has said it. Turn to Jeremiah chapter 10. And we're just going over a couple more verses that show that the earth has ends. The earth has ends. There's many, many more verses. I only got the 10 most important ones. Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 13. It says in verse 13 of Jeremiah 10, "When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringing forth the winds out of his treasure." So he is talking about the ends of the earth. There's ends on a flat earth. And then in Job 28, verse 24, it says again, the ends of the earth. So now I want to show you that the sun moves and not the earth. And this verse is a real proof of this. Turn to Psalm chapter 19. Psalm chapter 19. Psalm 19. And I'm going to prove to you from the Bible that the sun moves and not the earth. You're in Psalm 19, but I want you to open up to the 4th page in your packet. You should have a picture of a sun in the 4th page of your packet. I have a picture of 4 different pictures of suns. You might have a picture of one sun. And what you're seeing here is the sun with clouds in front of it, but also clouds behind it. You see those clouds behind the sun? and you should see that in your packet also, you should see clouds behind the sun. You see these clouds behind the sun? Do you know why that is? It's because the sun is rotating around the earth, not outside of the earth. There's no clouds in space. There's no clouds. There shouldn't be clouds behind the sun. It should be the 4th page in your packet. It's going to look different than this. I have 4 different pictures. You should have 1 picture in yours. But you see that there's a cloud behind the sun? It's because the sun is traveling within the firmament, and they lied to you telling you it's 93,000 miles away. Turn to the last page in your packet. Very last page. This is a picture from an amateur weather balloon. An amateur weather balloon. And you're going to see the sun above the clouds. You see the sun right there? Above the clouds? Do you see that little hot spot under it? That's only possible if the sun is close to the earth. You wouldn't have an isolated hot spot if the sun was 93 million miles away, because it would be hitting at the same point the whole side of the earth. It would be hitting this entire, whatever sphere whatever side of the sphere that it's shining on, it would not be isolated. But this is from an amateur weather balloon, and you can see that the sun, not only the flat horizon, see the flat horizon, but you see that the sun right here has a hot spot directly under where it is located, because the sun is close to the earth. And what it's showing you there is the heat coming down from the sun. So wherever is under the sun, that's why at 12 o'clock it feels the hottest, when the sun is directly above you. And you start to feel the temperature increase as the sun gets closer to you, right? So when the sun starts setting, remember we're talking about a field of view. The sun is always parallel to the earth. It never goes up or down. It's a matter of perspective. So the sun is, when it's coming at you, it looks like it's rising up. In the same way, when you walk closer to a building, it looks like the building's getting taller. But the building remains the same height. So when the sun is getting closer to you, it looks like it's rising up. And you ever notice that at 12 o'clock when it's directly above you, it's the hottest point of the day? And there's the most heat? It's because the sun is close to you. And when it's that close, you're feeling that hot spot. You're feeling the hotter it is, the closer it is to you, right below you. That's why at 12 o'clock, it's usually the hottest point of the day where you are located, because it's directly under the sun. And as the sun gets farther away, it looks like it's going down. But actually, remind you, if it's coming towards you and it looks like it's getting higher, it's just a matter of your perspective. And then as it goes away, it will look like it's going down, but remember, all the points are converging. When we talked about that hallway, how it'll look like the top of the ceiling is coming down, but really the ceiling is at the same exact height from the floor. So it's just a matter of your perspective. And that's exactly what's happening there. So you're in Psalm 19. Look at verse 4. It says, their line is gone out through all the earth. Remind you, we were talking about that line, right? The line just measuring a flat surface. So the line has gone out through all the earth. You wouldn't use the word line to describe all the earth, right? But that's not even the most important part of this verse. I like that verse. I like that part of it. But look what it says. Their words to the end of the world, in him that has set a tabernacle for the sun. So what's the subject of these few verses? The sun, right? Setting a tabernacle for the sun, which he has, with the firmament. Which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, rejoices as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. So a circuit of the sun is describing the sun moving in a circuit, not us moving around the sun. So when you think of a flat earth, and remember we keep going back to this picture, it's the sun that is circuiting around the earth. The sun circuits around the earth. And it says his circuit unto the ends of it, so it does. Remember, we're talking about it starting in the center of the north and then circuiting out towards the ends and then coming back in for a season. So its circuit does reach the ends of the earth. And then it comes back to the center. And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. So it is encompassing the whole earth. And let me just prove to you that circuit means circle. in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 6, it says, "The wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about to the north, and whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again." So when you think of something going out and then returning again, going out and returning again, according to his circuits. So it's talking about the circuit of the wind, going from the north to the south. Remember, if you're thinking of a disk, it's going from the north, which is the center of the disk, to the south. And it's saying it's whirling about continually. If it's whirling about continually, it's not just going straight. It's not going from the center of the flat earth all the way to the end of the earth. If it's whirling about continually, it's going in a circuit. And Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 6 says, "The wind returneth again according to its circuit." So a circuit is just making a path, a circular path. And in Job chapter 9, verse 7, turn to Job chapter 9, verse 7, because remember, I'm trying to prove to you that the sun moves, not the earth. The sun moves, not the earth. Job chapter 9, verse 7, it says, "Which commandeth the sun," talking about God, "and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars." So remember, we talked about the sun rising and falling is a matter of perspective. So if the sun is rising, it's moving closer to you, right? It's rotating, it's circuiting closer to you. If God can command the sun that it riseth not, that means the sun is no longer spinning. The sun is no longer going around the earth. He's stopping the circuit of the sun. He's commanding the sun, and it riseth not. It didn't say the earth riseth not. It didn't say the earth stops spinning. It doesn't say the earth stops its tilt. It says he commands the sun, and it riseth not. It's talking about the sun making its rounds, its circuit about earth. Turn to Joshua chapter 10. Joshua chapter 10. So God has control of the sun. God controls the sun to rise and fall. It's not the earth that rises and falls. It's the sun. Turn to Joshua chapter 10 and verse 12. We're going to look at Joshua 10, verse 12. So in Joshua chapter 10, look in verse 12. It says, "Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ahajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed." So what is this saying? It's that saying that the sun and the moon are the ones that are rotating. It's the sun and the moon that he's commanding to stay still. He didn't say, "Earth, rotate thou not." He didn't say, "Earth, spinneth thou not." He said, "Sun, stand thou still, thou and thou moon." Because the sun and the moon are rotating. And then it says, "And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed." So the sun and the moon didn't move. And then look what happens from that. Until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. And then it says, "So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down." Mind you, that's the perspective. Hasted not to go around the earth. Hasted not to go down about a whole day, and there was no day like it before or after, and the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man. So he's saying the sun did stay still in the midst of heaven. In the midst of heaven. So it's the sun that is staying still in the firmament of heaven and not going down or not rotating around the earth, because when it's talking about this, it's talking about from the perspective of a man. So if it's not going down, it means it's not rotating past him. It's not leaving his field of view. It's the sun that is staying. And when the sun rises, it's talking about the starting of a day and then coming back down. You know, but it's the sun is actually staying parallel. But it looks like it's going up and down, just a matter of perspective. But it's the sun it's the sun that's moving, not us. Right. It's the sun that is being stayed and the moon that is being stayed. Why would he stop the moon? If you didn't believe the sun verse, why would he stop the moon? What would that matter? What would it matter to stop the moon? The reason he stopped the moon is because the moon is giving a light by night. So if you just stop the sun, the moon's going to come up and just hit the sun. It's not going to have the proper rotation around the earth. If you stop the sun, if you didn't care about the sun part, and you're just like, oh, he stopped the earth. Why would he stop the moon? The moon could just keep rotating. The moon has nothing to do with it. The moon isn't going to affect anything in a globe earth. It's because they're two great lights. And he stopped both of them because they both have to be stopped in an enclosed system. And turn to Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 3. Habakkuk chapter 3. In verse 11, it says in chapter 3, verse 11, it says, the sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. So the sun and the moon are what's rotating. It's not the earth. Whenever it's saying they're standing still, it's talking about a miracle, something that happened that was weird, something that was crazy, something that God did. It's a miraculous thing to make the sun and moon stop, because they are what's giving light upon the earth. It's not the earth that's rotating around the sun. It's God who's rotating the sun around the earth. With that in mind, turn to 2 Kings chapter 20. 2 Kings chapter 20. Second Kings chapter 20, look in verse 8. It says, and Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I shall go up unto the house of the Lord the third day? And Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees or back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, it is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, but let the shadow return backwards 10 degrees. Backwards 10 degrees. He's talking about the sun. Should it go forward 10 degrees? Should I ask God to make the sun rotate more so that shadow will go 10 degrees forward? Or should I make it rotate backwards? And he says it's a light thing that it'll go forwards because, it's always going forwards. Make it go backwards. Make the sun and the moon go backwards. And in verse 11 it says, Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord and brought the shadow 10 degrees backwards. Because it's the sun that's rotating around the earth. He's bringing the sun backwards, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. So why preach on this subject? Why did I preach a sermon on the flat earth? Because it's a big lie. It's a huge lie to believe that you're on a globe and you're meaningless. The whole purpose of this lie is so that you feel like there's no God. Yeah. It's so that you feel unimportant. Right. It's so that you feel you can get away with anything if nobody's watching you. But if God is right above you, and he's looking down upon you like a grasshopper, he's watching your every move physically. He's watching you, and he cares about you. Remember, the earth was created to be inhabited. He cares about you if he's above you. He cares about you if you're all he created. If the earth is the one thing, the earth is the one system, right. That's what matters. Then the earth becomes a big deal. But if the earth is just some dot, a small dot, in the midst of a huge galaxy, in the midst of billions of other galaxies, then you're nothing. Then who knows? There could be life forms elsewhere. There could have been a Big Bang. There could have been evolution. All these theories are based upon this big lie. And when you look at the Bible, I think it's pretty clear that God created us for a reason. And he created the earth for a reason. And it is the main deal, the big thing. Turn to Jeremiah chapter 8. There's the last two verses I'm going to read. The world is sinful. The world wants to believe that there is no God. Because they don't want their deeds to be made manifest. They don't want their deeds to be known. They don't want people to rebuke them for fornicating. They don't want people to rebuke them for sinning. They don't want to believe in a God, so they make him very far away. They make him billions of light years away. They make him billions of galaxies away. If you believe you're in a solar system, then you got billions of light years until anything. But if you believe you're in the flat earth system, God is right above you. He's right there, and he's looking down upon you. Because he cares about you. I mean, he cares about us. And that's why Jesus came down. That's why he ascended back up. Why would Jesus have to ascend if we were a spinning ball in a huge galaxy in some crazy universe? He would just have to go poof and disappear. Because ascending would do nothing. He would go into some vacuum in space. He would go into some place that didn't matter. He ascended up because God's throne is above us. That's right. His throne is above the firmament. Turn to Jeremiah chapter 8, look in verse 1. It says, "At that time, saith the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun, and the moon, and all the host of heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered nor be buried, they shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. And death shall be chosen rather than life by the residue of them that remain of this evil family, which remain in all the places whither I have driven them, saith the Lord of hosts." So the reason that people make the sun and the moon and all these galaxies so important is because they don't want to worship God. They want to worship the host of heaven. They want to worship their own God. They want to worship anything that they can create. So when the sun becomes the center of your universe, and when the sun becomes the center of what you believe, your mind isn't focused on God. It's focused on the things he created. And that's the path to a reprobate. So that's why the world wants people to believe in this. But it's a lie. I'll just close this in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for your word, Lord, and I pray that you will help many people to see your truth. I pray that you will open the eyes of anyone that hears this sermon. I pray that you will really grow people in your word and grow closer to you in their walk with you, Lord. And we just pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.